is a company in England called Holden, among others, which sold a kit. I really wanted to get one, but apparently it's no longer available, but you can buy the whole fuel pump that way, at least it's being a solid state type.
Hey, Mike, there was
Yes.
a question about what oil in an overdrive.
Yes.
I know, I guess Mike Wolf was talking about John Esposito up in Connecticut or wherever his shop is. He does a lot of transmission rebuilding. I'm actually the opposite because to me, if you look in the workshop manual, maybe Ken could chime up on this too, but if you look in a workshop manual, it doesn't matter whether it's a Jaguar, Austin Healey, MGB, they basically all have the same overdrive. It might be a D, a J, an A, or whatever. But the bottom line is, MGB may call for 30 weight, Triumph may call for 80W90. Personally, I see nothing other than synthetic oil is different, and I don't recommend synthetic oil for an overdrive, even though, but oil is kind of like an opinion, and everybody has one. But, to me, an 80W90 GL4 is probably the best oil that you could put in there. And, we don't drive our cars, and even if you do drive your car hard, and, he might have been talking about some kind of pressure, but in my mind, the GL, the 80W90, and maybe Rich can chime in too, but the 80W90 is, to me, it's a great overall oil. I haven't experienced any problems with it, and that's what I put in everything that leaves here. So I don't follow that, but it just,
GL4 because of brass parts.
yeah, GL4 won't attack the brass, but sometimes it's hard to find the GL4. They'll try to sell you GL5 or GL3 or whatever. I don't keep track of it, but the GL4 tends to work very well. So, you almost, other than synthetic, you really can't go wrong.
All right,
So,
continuing.
sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. Electrical. We've all had issues with discharge batteries. We're watching the ammeter go to full on and the lights are still dim. The standard is a Lucas alternator or generator. I know I'm a little more familiar with the alternator, so I'll discuss those a little bit further. But basically, I have 4 flavors for an alternator. And to know which one you've got, check on your alternator. This bolt is what holds the diode bridge assembly in place. There should be a little tag trapped underneath that nut. And that will tell you what type of alternator you have. The 15 ACR alternator was good for 28 amps. But they spare. The 16 ACR was 34, some improvement. 17 ACR is 36, again, why bother? And the 18 ACR was good for 45. Now, any one of these can be substituted with an 18 ACR with maybe one wire has to be added because the sense wire is not built in to an 18 ACR. You're going to bring it up separately. Other than that, they all use exactly the same mounting, the same body size, all the same internal components. So I could upgrade from a 15 ACR to a 40 to an 18 in one step, and I at least get that. But as it would come out of the factory, there's very little room for expansion because the alternators are basically designed to supply only what is needed. So if I wanted to go adding a big radio system or extra driving lights or some other items like that, I'm going to run into a big problem. I'm simply not going to have enough power. I'm going to run down battery before too much longer. Electrical harnesses also tend to be a tad light. Using an 18 gauge wire to supply headlight power, I think, is a little ludicrous. They're asking an awful lot of that piece of wire. You certainly wouldn't be allowed to build a house like that. So electrical harnesses tend to be a bit light. They're also asking the switches to do all the work. So when I turn on the headlight switch on high beam, all the power to run the high beam is going through the switch first, which is why Lucas switches tend to fall apart, or when you take them apart and they got any kind of age on them, they actually there are physically melted sections in the switches.
Hey, Mike,
So-
did you want to just touch on, if somebody does put like 100 amp in there, 100 whatever, that maybe they should lead some of the, like take a wire right to the battery so they don't, or did I cut,
Yeah,
or did I cut in front of you?
We'll talk about that.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. So
You
anyway.
can digress.
Okay. So as far as upgrade is concerned, I can certainly upgrade the alternator to something a little bit more powerful within the same chassis. Or if I wanted to go all out and make sure that I can drive anything and the car next to me and the car next to him. This is a GM unit. It's 100 amps, it says. Now, no alternator will deliver 100 amps at idle, but the capability of having 100 amps at 2,000 RPMs, man, that goes a long way. And these units are clockable insofar as I take these 4 bolts out, I can rotate this back body. So I can clock it any way I want. I can put this is the output screw, right? This is the output of the alternator right there, single wire. I can put that in any one of 4 positions. Note, if you pull this off and put it back on, you will destroy the brushes. Because the brushes, unlike a Lucas alternator, which come in from the back, these come in on the side. So when you pull it out, the springs unload, they pop into position, and when you push the housing back in, you snap the brushes right off. However, they only cost about $12.
I just did that.
There you go. I did it too, that's why I know. But anyway, yes. Actually, there's a place where you pull the brushes out. You just release them, and then you assemble and push them back in. I didn't know that at the time. So, but if you change the clocking, you just undo the 4 bolts, rotate it, put bolts back in. Don't pull it apart, because that's when you run into problems. But you can upgrade to 100, or I think even General Motors makes 150. Delco makes 150 amp on this size unit. And for at least the TR6 6-cylinder, I may have to do a very tiny amount of grinding on a boss that's part of the bracket, but it goes right on the car. And it hooks right up to it.
How about for the 3 and 4?
We sell a kit. Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead,
Advertise
sell all
it.
you want.
We sell a kit, which is everything you need, including instructions. And I know that because I helped write the instructions.
Well, now you have something to add.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't think about that. So yeah, I can change the Lucas unit. This also would be a good idea to add some extra fuses. The 2s and 3s and early 4s and a lot of the other British cars only had all 2 fuses. So nothing wrong with adding another fuse box, and I can, however many of these I want to chain together. And they take a modern spade type fuse, which by the way you can also buy that has an LED indicator in them, that when the fuse blows the LED is lit. So now you're not poking around in a dark fuse box trying to find which one's open. It's already telling you which one's open. That's pretty slick. So extra fuses and also adding relays to drive certain loads takes the stress off the switches. So if I upgraded my headlights above say 65 watts for high beam, maybe adding a set of relays to drive them would be a good idea. You'll also notice that the headlights are brighter because I took the load out of the switch. The switch no longer starts to act like a resistor. So the headlights are brighter and all the other associated lighting is brighter as well. So there's a lot to be said for adding a couple of relays. They're fairly simple to put in.
I actually put relays on my 71 TR6. The lights were so dim. I measured the voltage actually getting to the headlights was 9 volts.
Yeah.
Instead of the, what, 13 or 14.
Yeah. And that's all dropped pretty much through the switches.
Yeah, and the wiring is too light. He mentioned the 18 gauge wiring. I put a relay system in and got full 12 volts to the light, and you wouldn't believe how bright those lights are. My favorite car to drive in the dark.
So, also, if you want to add power accessories and that sort of thing, like radios or a CB radio, for example, if you're traveling with convoy, or sat-nav systems and so on, always want to, adding extra fuses gives you nice places to take off power that you need. Also, cars equipped with alternators use it's called a voltage stabilizer. It's used to set a reference voltage in the temperature gauge and fuel gauge. The original ones are mechanical. They work kind of like a turn signal flasher. The new ones are solid state. If you've got a you know, I just filled the tank up, but the wretched gauge only reads halfway, it's because this is failing. It's only actually putting out half the voltage you need. So an upgrade there would be just go to solid state type, and you've eliminated basically something with a set of points that can burn out. Okay, engines. We can have fun with engines, but 4 6s and 8s, obviously, they weren't particularly overly developed. They didn't make a ton of horsepower for their size. Rugged, tough motors that are hard to kill, but by the same token, they lack all development. So, I mean, the sky's the limit. How big is your wallet? You can go to town on this, but the first thing I would do, and I'm not getting paid for selling for Pertronics, but I do like this kit. It goes right into the distributor, 2 wires, right across the coil, you're done. And it eliminates the points, it eliminates the points bounce, and this kit actually will pay for itself, because if you have a car that absolutely positively will not run on anything less than premium fuel because it pings like you won't believe, you put this in, run on mid-grade, and it might knock slightly under full load. And all I did was eliminate the points bounce. That's what this is great for. So now I'm not paying $3.50 a gallon for gas. I'm paying $2.75. Goes a long way. And those kits are only $60 or $70 will get you into one.
Is that adaptable for the 3?
Yep. And they make a positive and a negative ground type as well. So I can go either way. Fuel injection, as I've already mentioned. Silicon gaskets. There's a set down there. I stumbled onto these. Cork gaskets dry out after a while. They crack, they shrink, they compress to the point where they don't really seal, and they weep after a while, so they become a maintenance issue. Silicon gaskets are designed to tolerate higher temperatures. You basically glue them into the gasket track on one side, and so that it makes them nicely reusable. They seal very well, and they just eliminate the problem of that old technology. And finally, we can always go to forced induction. Moss Motors sells supercharger kits for MG and Triumph. Another 50 horsepower just leaps out of the engine, assuming I got an engine that's up to the task. There's a 4-cylinder Austin block sitting over there out next to the arbor press. That's we're going to force feed that engine when it's all said and done. It's being rebuilt so it can tolerate the stresses of running forced induction. But again, how big is your wallet? Okay, and finally, safety, comfort, and convenience. Driving position becomes a real issue. So seats, driving position, these cars, they're fun to drive, but they're drafty in the winter. They're always cold. In the summer, they cook you. They're noisy because they lack sound insulation. So you always hear road noise, engine differential, and gearbox noises. The stock audio system, if it even has one, is an AM radio or an AM FM. So again, here the sky's the limit. We can do just about anything we want. It just depends on how big our wallet is. But I can get an air conditioning kit for pretty much anything I want. There's a Vento red TR6 parked out there, and it has a hard top on it, dark weather, and an air conditioning kit to keep the cold air in. I'm sure that's a pretty nice setup. But the company is called Retro Air. They make air conditioning kits for plastic cars. I know for a fact that you can still buy the compressors, the original compressors that were used. They may not say York on them, but they sure look like the York compressor to me. So I just bought one a year ago for my Stag.
You know, we put an air conditioner in that Renown we did a few years ago. So if you put an air conditioner in a Renown, you can pretty much, I don't know why you want to do that, because the car isn't fast enough to put
Yeah, it doesn't have horsepower. So suddenly it's all going to driving the air conditioner.
Yeah, unless you're going downhill, then everything's fine.
But the point of it is that you can buy all the parts you need off the shelf. All you need is to know how to pull them all together. Radios, HD radio, satellite radio. You can get a radio now that has USB ports, iPod connections, CD players, tape decks. If you want it, you can get it in a radio. And they're not horribly expensive. And once you add some sound deadening, This is a foam, it's an acoustic foam with a sticky back, or this stuff, which is basically what could almost be called tar with a reflective coating on it. The idea of this is it puts, gives the metal a little more density, reduces the oil drumming effect, so it doesn't become a speaker for every little noise that comes in on one side of it. So this deadens the sound, this as much absorbs it as anything else. Makes the car a little bit quieter, makes it a little bit cooler, and it insulates you, like I said, it insulates you from the heat source. Hard tops, of course, most cars are available. You could get a factory hard top, or a hard top is an option. So there are plenty of hard tops out there. One of the things that the blogosphere talks about is fitting a set of Miata seats to a TR6 or to any one of the cars that will fit in. I couldn't tell you how good or bad that works. Sounds like a neat idea. Certainly, it's more seat for your as a headrest, so that should that emotionally challenged teenage girl who's busy with her cell phone run into the back of you, at least you have half a chance of not suffering from whiplash. And of course, you know, if you know an interior guy, he can dress them in a matching color that matches the car as it is. Center armrests and consoles. There's one right there in a magazine. I think Moss sells them as well. It just gives you a place to lean, a little bit more comfort instead of that big hole in this between the two seats, and some storage space as well.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
I wanted to leave Richard outside of the.
Okay, I'm done in like two.
Two?
Two.
One? Two.
This is an upgrade everybody should think about, because at least 3 people in this room can speak from personal experience why you should have one of these in your car. 2 of those people are the people who put out the fire that happens, and one who suffered the fire. Which really should have one of these. These are, they've done away with halon because it's not environmentally friendly, but this is halotron, which is a similar material. It's a clean room, this is for use in a clean room, like a computer room. Doesn't leave any residue, puts out the fire quickly, and you know, saves you from watching your pride and joy burn to the ground right in front.
Who makes that?
I don't know, I think I got this from Summit Racing. They come in red, black, and chrome, all kinds of sizes. And, you know, DTR doesn't take off for these in the car, by the way. In fact, if a judge takes off that you've got a fire extinguisher in your car, talk to him and beat him over the head with it, because this is considered, VTR at least considers this protecting your investment. You're allowed to have one in your car. Doesn't matter how original and perfect your car is. If it has a fire extinguisher in it, they are not allowed to take off for it, unless it's just thrown in the car.
They will bag you for an emergency hood release, though.
I can't say that. If I don't see it, I don't. How's the expression go? If I don't see it, I can't write a ticket for it. Something like that. Okay, I'm done. I'll turn it over to Mr. Good. Yes.
Where's the best place